summary, victims were shackled with industrial restraints. Serial numbers were scratched off. GEO and Core Civic will not acknowledge whether they were theirs or not. They don't want to look at them.
Don't show that evidence.
IDs, tattoos, or clothing. Autopsies indicate sedation and unconsciousness before drowning.
Wow.
That was on the report from last night. It was suffocation in confined space.
So the suffocation in confined space was them not giving them oxygen back there, or and we don't know if they were gassed or if they were injected. Whatever it was, it made them pass out. They were unconscious upon the drop, and many of them had hypothermia because it was cold. There's no heat in there, and they're flying at high altitudes.
Asphyxia and hypothermia. We have confirmation today. Autopsies indicate sedation, unconsciousness before drowning. So they were sedated before they were put in the water.
Let's give our praises to the Most High, whose true name in the ancient Hebrew is Yahweh, in the name of his only begotten Son, whose true name in the ancient Hebrew is Yahweh Shai, and the Holy Spirit, which in the ancient Hebrew is the Rakak Wadash. Double honors to the elders who taught us this truth by the Holy Spirit. Honors to the brothers risking their life and freedom to push the gospel. Peace and blessings to the elect, which will consist of the so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, and Seminole Indians who make up the lost 12 tribes of Israel, according to scripture and according to prophecy. But the elect would be 1/3 of the Israelites who will return back to the Most High during the last days, which is right now, to receive salvation, while the 2/3 of Israel who don't turn back to the Most High be destroyed with America. So we back with another lesson through the mercy of Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. This lesson is going to be titled, So-called Mexicans are being deported and dropped in the Atlantic Ocean. Again, so-called Mexicans are being deported and dropped in the Atlantic Ocean. So, as the story continues, it gets worse and worse. As more details come out, this thing is a lot worse than we know it to be. And it's going to continue to get worse because this is a time of Jacob's trouble. Now, I got a series of videos we're going to watch. So we're going to start with these videos, then get the scriptures at the end. So let me make this a little bigger. Check this out. It says holiday horror as 5 bodies with shackled hands and feet wash up on beach at tourist hotspot. So let's see what this is about.
So what you have here is you have one story that migrants in the United States have been routinely shackled at the waist, wrists, ankles, and loaded onto cargo planes. Not just cargo planes, but cargo planes with the rear doors that can open mid-flight. Completely separate story. 5 corpses with their hands and feet bound have been found floating in the sea off the coast of Majorca. And since January, 31 bodies have been recovered there.
So since January, 31 bodies has been recovered. Now, this was information that came out a week and a half ago. New update, there's over 60 bodies that's been recovered and still counting.
These aren't commercial flights. They're military-style planes with no windows, metal floors, and a rear ramp that can open mid-air. The U.S. uses private contractors like Global X to run these flights.
I've got questions. I'd like to know why we we are seeing these examples of ICE detainees being loaded specifically on cargo planes that have the kind of ramps that can be opened during flight.
Okay, so that's the first video. So you got the so-called Mexicans who's being loaded on these cargo planes, the kind that the back door, the back ramp can be opened mid-flight. And the so-called Mexicans are being loaded on these cargo planes, shackled by their hands and feet, meaning they tied, and them the same bodies that's washing up on these different shores. So we got more videos and more evidence, and let's get on to the next video.
So there's bodies that are being found washing up on shore that are shackled from their hands and their feet. But do you know who's not reporting any of this? Notice you haven't heard a word of this on any American news outlet. No ABC, no CNN, no Fox News, no channel in the U.S. is reporting this. There's no Washington Post, there's no Wall Street Journal, there's no Forbes, there's no American journalists that are covering this. You don't find that oddly suspicious that not one American news company or outlet is reporting that bodies are washing up on shores where their hands are shackled and their feet are shackled? Whose hands and feet are being shackled as they're boarding things in the U.S. right now? When I did find it on MSN, look how the picture is portrayed here. You don't see the problem with that? You see the difference? How Dublin News reported this? How other countries are reporting this without putting in some weird-ass picture? See how they just use pictures of vacation spot, beach-like type photos?
So yeah, you see different news media across the world is reporting on this. Bodies washing up on the shore, shackled by their hands and feet. More and more people are starting to talk about it. But it's a whole lot worse once we get to the last video. You find out how sinister and wicked and evil and cruel Esau the white man is. But let's grab this next video.
Yo, I'm not saying this is 100% confirmed, y'all, but people are starting to connect some dots here, and it's raising some serious fucking questions, y'all. Now, this is all allegedly, okay? But bodies have been washing up in the ocean with their hands and feet tied off the coast of Spain and also around other parts of the Mediterranean. Now, at the same time, people are noticing that immigrants being deported from the U.S. are being shackled as well. Hands, feet, and waist when they're being loaded onto these planes. Now, here's where shit gets pretty fucking suspicious, y'all. Flight logs. And this is all public data that people are looking at right now. But it allegedly shows some of these deportation flights taking off, heading way out into the middle of the ocean, and coming right back without ever landing anywhere. So people are starting to ask, man, if these folks are shackled when they get on the plane and the plane never lands, where the fuck are they going? Now listen, man, I'm not saying that the government is out here tossing motherfuckers into the ocean, but I am saying that people are seeing shackled bodies in the sea, shackled people.
And that's exactly what's going on. The government is dropping so-called Mexicans who are Israelites in the middle of the ocean. Now he and other people can't believe it. They in disbelief that the American government would do that. We in disbelief too, but we not surprised. We never thought, like, damn, you saw the white man gonna be throwing us out of cargo planes in the middle of the ocean. That never crossed our mind. But it crossed his mind, and he's doing it. And yeah, your world leaders, the U.S. government, Esau the white man, is very capable of that. And they're capable of a lot worse that they about to act on pretty soon.
Deportation flights, and they never land. Is something being covered up here, y'all?
Yeah, because like he said, it's public information. And I saw it on another video. You can track these flights. You know, the public got access to that. And he say that reports are coming out that these cargo planes that are used to deport so-called Mexican immigrants, they flying out into the ocean and doing a U-turn. And that's pretty weird to fly into the middle of the ocean and do a U-turn. What's the purpose of that? Well, that's where you get the dead bodies that's washing up on the shore. And I believe over there in Europe and near the Mediterranean, and I guess it's maybe on the next video, but over 60 bodies have washed up since January. Over 60 bodies. And them just the ones that washed up. How many of them got eaten by sharks? How many of them maybe are still missing? But let's get this next video.
News, my loves. Bodies have been washing up on shore in the Mediterranean. That's not the worst part, my loves. The scariest part is that the bodies that have been washing up on shore in the Mediterranean have been shackled. Tell me why this administration has had flights of undocumented migrants go out at night. If we put two and two together and my deductions and my intuition is correct, are they seriously killing off our family members?
That's exactly what's happening. They killing off your family members because you don't know who you're dealing with. In which I'm gonna get this precept real quick. This is the book of Hosea, chapter 9, verse 13. Ephraim. And Ephraim is pretty much dealing with the northern kingdom, just as Judah is dealing with the southern kingdom. So Ephraim will represent so-called Native Americans, Mexicans, Seminole Indians, all the Latin American tribes. In this case, the focus will be Issachar, so-called Mexicans. Ephraim, as I saw Tyrus, is planted in a pleasant place. And the so-called Mexicans, which are the tribe of Issachar, that pleasant place will be Mexico, situated between North and South America. It says, but Ephraim, which would be the northern kingdom, but definitely so-called Mexicans, shall bring forth his children to the murderer. Who's the murderer? Esau, Edom, the so-called white man. The man whose blessing is the sword in Genesis chapter 27. And in Genesis chapter 25, it said that Esau was a cunning hunter. That's the murderer. And he let y'all, Northern Kingdom, so-called Mexicans, and those from Central and South America, he let y'all come up over here for years. You thought y'all just gonna come over here and work forever and get American money and send it back home. No, the day was coming, he was letting y'all come over here so he could start killing y'all. And why? Because y'all are part of the 12 tribes of Israel. But like she say, is the government really killing our family members? That's exactly what's going on. You think America gonna deport millions of so-called Mexicans and spend millions of dollars to fly y'all all across the world? Hell no. That's why he brought Elon Musk, which the purpose of him is to cut useless government spending. Flying millions of people out of America to their home country, that's useless government spending. No, they want to get you out of America any way they can. And really, it's not even about getting you out of America. They want to exterminate the 12 tribes. That's why when you look at this picture, you see so-called Mexicans, so-called Native Americans, so-called Negroes. ICE is going after so-called Mexicans, Native Americans. Now you see them going after Haitians, which are of the 12 tribes of Israel. You don't see them going after no Iranians, no Chinese, none of the people from the other parts of the world that came up through the U.S.-Mexico border. But Ephraim, Issachar, so-called Mexicans, shall bring forth his children to the murderer. Y'all came over here to make more money, so-called live a better life, get the American advantage. The whole time you come into the murderer. Esau Edom, the so-called white man. That's why he let y'all come over here. But we're gonna let this video finish.
I'm praying to God that I'm mistaken, but I don't know what you guys think, guys, but this is fucking terrifying. Mm-hmm. This is fucking terrifying, and not enough people are talking about this. We need to share this video to spread this for awareness, because, my loves, you need to be safe out there. You see immigration, ICE, bounty hunters, whoever the fuck, trying to play snatchies. Do not allow them to grab you or your loved ones, because they are trying to disappear us and make a white America. Be safe out there, my loves.
Yeah, she right. You get snatched up by ICE, it's a good chance you might never be heard from or seen again. When Trump talks about self-deporting, he should probably do that. Now, the Lord is bringing judgment, so self-deporting is not going to save you from the Lord's judgment. But again, you get snatched up by ICE, it's a good chance you're going to go missing. So we got another video that we're going to get to, and this is going to tie everything together. It's going to bring out some new information. So some of the bodies are being gathered, and they're doing autopsies on them. And what this man going to say about what was revealed in these autopsies, that this thing is a whole lot worse than people realize. Now, check this out.
So here we go.
So there is evidence coming in of more. So as
more bodies,
more, unfortunately, it's always like peeling back more layers. And
so wait a second. We were already at 60 plus bodies, all right, that have washed up, shackled, and chained. That were all of the so-called Hispanic descent, which they're holding back from giving up DNA and information about the bodies because they're trying to, well, it's kind of like an Epstein thing. They don't really want it to come out.
More. So with this, we're looking at a projection model. If this is what we think it is, what I think it is, then around July 7th or 8th, some more bodies will start washing ashore. So, thermally confirmed the disposal window, legally admissible. It was the heat spike was confirmed by Ego Strasfur's GOES and Modus Fusion. Disposal type is a mass overboard discharge or ramp drop.
Ramp
Conclusion,
drop.
thermally confirmed disposal window, legally admissible. Maritime correlation, refined. 3 vessels flagged with blackout during the critical. 1 reflagged Panamanian vessel observed with Veer's exhaust blown on Sentinel-1 wake. Route pattern consistent with detainee transfer vessel.
Wow.
So the route it takes is consistent with the detainee transfer vessels. Forensic evidence summary: victims were shackled with industrial restraints.
So, like you say, the people that's washed up, shackled by their hands and feet, were shackled with industrial constraints, industrial grade, heavy duty, high quality. This ain't your average first 48 killer went to Dollar General and got some zip ties, or went to Walmart and got some cheap rope. No, this is industrial grade restraints. Something that's used commercially. We're going to take this back a little bit and watch what he says next.
Route pattern consistent with detainee transfer vessel.
Wow.
So the route it takes is consistent with detainee transfer vessels. Forensic evidence summary: victims were shackled with industrial restraints. Serial numbers were scratched off.
And on these industrial constraints, the serial numbers were scratched off. The serial numbers were scratched off. So this was done intentionally. That's something that a murderer would do. But we grabbed Hosea 9:13. Ephraim shall bring forth his children to the murderer. And then as we see here, these two companies will not acknowledge, rather, the industrial restraints, what they shackle the people with. Nobody is admitting that those shackles came from their company. So nobody know nothing. Everybody got closed lips.
Core Civic will not acknowledge whether they were theirs or not. They don't want to look at them.
Don't show that evidence.
These tattoos or clothing. Autopsies indicate sedation and unconsciousness before drowning.
Why?
These bodies drowned, of course. They was in the water. But when you see here, autopsies indicate sedation. So you being unconscious, you being asleep, that's you being drugged or medicated. Autopsies indicate sedation and unconsciousness before drowning. So when these people were dropped in the water, they were already out of it, sedated, possibly drugged. Now you see how sinister this really is.
Autopsies indicate sedation and unconsciousness before drowning.
Wow.
That was on the report from last night. It was suffocation in confined space.
Suffocation in confined space.
Suffocation in confined space.
So the suffocation in confined space was them not giving them oxygen back there, or and we don't know if they were gassed or if they were injected. Whatever it was, it made them pass out. They were unconscious upon the drop, and many of them had hypothermia because it was cold. There's no heat in there, and they're flying at high altitudes. Yeah.
Asphyxia and hypothermia. We have confirmation today. Autopsies indicate sedation, unconsciousness before drowning. So they were sedated before they were put in the water.
Wow.
Certainly suggest prolonged shipboard containment. So now that's important too. Shipboard containment is another clue as far as also the confined space. So there's a reason. It gives me a place to look because of these black sites.
That's enough on that. And I love the fact that he's just giving you all facts, and this is all maritime information, and all these planes were tracked coming from America, and cargo with people who were supposedly being flown out of here, not even being flown to their countries of origin. And what they did was they tracked. You were able to access this information and track the flight of planes. And these planes did like a horseshoe, basically. They left, did a horseshoe, and came back, except for they came back minus their cargo, because the cargo doors opened up and dropped those bodies into the sea, and now you got evidence of it. And this was done by your U.S. government, your sitting president, white supremacists, and Christians.
Yep, like you say, your U.S. government, white supremacists, Christians. And that's no different when they threw so-called Negro slaves off of the slave ships in the Atlantic Ocean. They doing the same thing to the Northern Kingdom, so-called Latin American tribes, the Mexicans, doing them the same way. Why? Because we the same people. Yeah, that's how bad it is. They sedating these people, causing them to be unconscious. They suffocating back there, hypothermia. So you're going to be sedated, unconscious, one way or another, and then they're going to drop you. And why they doing it to the so-called Mexican immigrants? You know, a lot of them don't speak Spanish. A lot of them have limited networking capabilities. They may only be in contact with few people, so they're an easy target. You know, a lot of their family may be back home. They may know only very few people in America. So they family and friends may not speak English or good English, may not know how to look for them, may not even know where to begin. And they probably don't want to look for them because if they go looking, they might be next. But that's why Esau the white man is known as a cunning hunter. He's targeting the people that's easy to get right now. They're an extremely disadvantaged people, especially with these ICE raids and deportations. But yeah, this thing is a whole lot worse than we thought. And it's going to get a lot worse. Ecclesiasticus, also known as Sirach 12 and 10, never trust thine enemy. So yeah, he let you come over here thinking you're going to work, but he had plans of deporting you. He's tell you he's going to deport you, but that's not even what he's trying to do. He's trying to kill you. Never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. Through the process of time, iron, when it rusts, get worse and worse. Through the process of time, Esau Edom the white man and his wickedness is getting worse and worse as the story unfolds. And as more evidence and receipts come out. Again, never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. The white man say he gonna do something, hey, it's a lot more evil and sinister things that he has in mind. Whatever he say he's gonna do it. But again, this could be a lot more evil and sinister stuff at the end of it. Comparing his wickedness to iron that rusts. Now we're gonna jump to the book of Psalms, chapter 10. We're gonna start at verse 2. The wicked in his pride doth persecute the poor. Who is the wicked? Esau Edom, the so-called white man. Trump, his administration, the government. Esau, the white man in general, persecute the poor. Who's the people that he oppresses the most? The 12 tribes, so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, Seminole Indians. Let them be taken in the devices that they have imagined. So at the end of the day, Esau, the white man, is going to fall at the end of the day. But again, the wicked in his pride doth persecute the poor. Him want to take away your citizenship, want to deport you when you working in America, helping America stay afloat and function, snatching you from your families, and then drop you off in the middle of the ocean. That's him persecuting the poor. Because again, we're all the cargo planes that's supposed to be flying these Chinese people up out of here. For the wicked, who is the white man, Esau Edom, for the wicked boasteth in his heart's desire. And he puts his heart's desire in these executive orders. These executive orders, they may act like they don't want to sign them. They may act like it's just business. Oh, we got to do what's best for America. No, that's the desires of his heart. That's what he want to do. And that's what he do with these executive orders. You know, Project 2025, Project 3030, that's some boasting of his heart's desire. And there's usually nothing good written in them executive orders, in them House bills. Nothing but how they gonna further persecute or oppress the poor. It says, and blesseth the covetous, whom the Lord abhorreth. So his heart's desire is to continue to oppress and persecute the poor, but to bless the rich. They get tax cuts. That's why they say, make the poor more poor and the rich richer. Coming on, To verse 7, his mouth is full of cursing. Him speaking about what he gonna do to people. The most recent thing Trump said, if you immigrants thought y'all was gonna leave, he said the immigrants, they're gonna be stuck here in America. He said leave while you can. Talking about alligator Alcatraz, talking about he got sharks waiting on people, grizzly bears. His mouth is full of cursing and deceit. Everything he speaks is a lie. The things he's going to do to the people, that's true. But when he speaks as if he's for the people or as if he's doing what's best for America, that's deceit. That's a whole lie. He told you he's going to make America better. Look what he's doing. And fraud. This is not a justice system. It's an injustice system. Because again, where are all the Chinese people being deported at? Why ain't little Chinatown and these Chinese restaurants being raided by ICE? He sit up in the lurking places of the villages. So he's sitting ducked off somewhere. Undercover, masked up, shades, can't see his face. That's him sitting in the lurking places of the villages. He in the cities posted up somewhere, covered up. That's why ICE don't even got no official uniform that says ICE on it. So you can identify him. In the secret places doth he murder the innocent. So yeah, he's somewhere in secret murdering people who's done nothing wrong. In this case, be the so-called Mexicans. How is he murdering them? Well, what we talk about in this lesson, how he's dropping them off in the middle of the ocean. His eyes are privily set against the poor. Again, this would be the 12 tribes. Because you see Americans talking about what's going on, they speaking as if it's happening to all American people. No, this is happening to so-called Mexicans, who are of the 12 tribes of Israel. And guess who he's going to do it to next? You so-called Negroes, who are of the 12 tribes of Israel. He's going to do it to y'all too. But probably something worse. So again, when he do these executive orders and these house bills, again, they have a people in mind that they want to target. Because again, why the Chinese people not being deported? Iranians, people from Africa and the so-called Middle East Palestinians, why they not being deported? He lied and wait secretly as a lion in his den. And that's what he do. He lied and wait to catch the poor. So they somewhere like a hunter, which Esau the white man in Genesis 25 said Esau was a cunning hunter. He doth catch the poor when he draweth him into his net. That's when you caught up in the system or he get his hands on you. He croucheth and humbleth himself that the poor may fall by his strong ones, humbling himself, acting like he's for the people, that he's putting the people first, that he's putting America first. That's him humbling himself. But what? That the poor, beginning with the 12 tribes, may fall by his strong ones. Hey, in this case, that would be ICE, which is part of the U.S. military. ICE ain't just armed security or law enforcement. That's a subdivision of the military. So he's going to speak smooth, soft words while he send a sword after you. He saith in his heart, God hath forgotten. He hideth his face, he will never see it. So he didn't think that we would see or know about him dropping so-called Mexicans off in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. We didn't need to see it, but we see the evidence. Who else is shackling people by their hands and feet? Who else putting people on military cargo planes with a door that can open mid-flight? We don't have to see you do it. We got the evidence. We can put two and two together. Not only that, we know the nature of the so-called white man. We know his nature. So why the rest of the world in disbelief that he's doing this to the people, we really expected nothing less. Yeah, we surprised, but we expected nothing less. He hath said in his heart, God hath forgotten, he hideth his face, he will never see it. No, the Lord sees everything. We see it. So we gonna get a few more. This is the book of Jeremiah 30 and 7. Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. See, it says, speaking about the future, it said that day is great, so that none is like it. So telling you that there's a time in the future that's gonna be that the days of the past wouldn't even be able to compare to. And that future time is called Jacob's trouble, which we in the beginning of it. This is just the Lord spoke about the beginning of sorrows. That's only the beginning. What the middle gonna be like? What the ending gonna be like? But that's why it says he shall be saved out of it. Moab, the Chinese man don't need saving. Other nations outside of the 12 tribes, they don't need saving. Because look who's being targeted. The sons of Jacob, which would be the 12 tribes of Israel. So yeah, and we're gonna get this in the NLT, Jeremiah 30 and 7. In all history, there has never been such a time of terror. That time is now. That's why the Mexican lady, she said, this is horrifying. This is terrible. This is just the beginning. Wait till ICE get the rest of their money, which they got over $170 billion at their disposal. In all history, there has never been such a time of terror. That time is now. But it's just beginning. It will be a time of trouble for my people Israel. That's the 12 tribes, so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, and Seminole Indians. Because who's being deported? Who's being rounded up? Who is Trump speaking about when he speaks about birthright citizenship and taking citizenship away from certain people? It's concerning us. So this is a time of trouble for the Lord's people Israel. It says, yet in that day, they will be saved. So that day, who's going to be saved of the people of Israel will be the elect. Everybody that's not in this truth, that hasn't returned back to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shah, hey, whatever the white man imagine, he's going to succeed with the 2/3, but not with that remnant, not with the elect. But again, it says in all history, there's never been such a time of terror. So everything that we've been through as a people in the earth, going back thousands of years, not going to compare to this time of Jacob's trouble that we in now. And as we get deeper, hey, the story going to get worse. And it's going to get worse. We got more videos. So just wait till tomorrow. And then watch, more information that comes out next week and the week after. Then people gonna understand that in our history there has never been such a time of terror. And again, that time of terror is gonna be focused on the Lord's people Israel. I'm gonna play this again and we're gonna close out.
In summary, victims were shackled with industrial restraints. Serial numbers were scratched off. GEO and Core Civic will not acknowledge whether they were theirs or not. They don't want to look at them.
Don't show that evidence.
These tattoos or clothing. Autopsies indicate sedation and unconsciousness before drowning.
Wow.
That was on the report from last night. It was suffocation in confined space.
So the suffocation in confined space was them not giving them oxygen back there, or and we don't know if they were gassed or if they were injected. Whatever it was, it made them pass out. They were unconscious upon the drop. And many of them had hypothermia because it was cold. There's no heat in there, and they're flying at high altitudes. Yeah.
Asphyxia and hypothermia. We have confirmation today. Autopsies indicate sedation, unconsciousness before drowning. So they were sedated before they were put in the water.
Wow.
Personally suggest prolonged shipboard containment. So that's important too. Shipboard containment is another clue.
Right, till next time. Shalom.